What's the biggest change that you've seen in that 100 years?
Well, in the world, I think that that asshole in the White House is the biggest change.
Never seen anything like that in your 100 years, huh?
Never.
Never. I haven't lived near as long, but I got to agree.
You don't
I
agree?
do agree.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. We're
Yeah,
hoping we don't see that again in the near
that's
future.
right. Not in the next election.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Um,
Now you were born in 1920, so
That's the roaring
the
20s.
Big Depression happened when you were about what 9, 10 years old. So
nine.
you lived right through that as a young girl going into being a young
Right.
woman.
Well, I had to live through it.
Of course, yeah. And here we are, almost 100 years later.
That's right.
Uh, because of this coronavirus, the stock market's gone down for a week straight.
Oh,
We don't
boy.
know at this time whether it's going to be a prelude to hard economic times or not. But back in the 1930s, how did that affect your life? That depression that you went through, was it hard for your family?
Well, sure it was. We're a large family. My father made a good business, and he never had to worry about finances. But
Your father did what?
my father was a furrier,
Mm-hmm.
and in those days, the fur business was not looked upon as it is today.
Right.
There are too many animal lovers who will not put up with it.
It was well respected business in those
Right?
days. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, back
And
then
even in the depression, he was able to make a decent living.
he was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
of course, different businesses failed and things were different,
Oh yeah.
but we managed to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there was stamps for food, and it was almost like now with the people who are uh, unable to afford to buy food or anything like that, are supplied uh, food stamps. We didn't have food stamps, but we did have stamps that were I don't know.
They were rations.
They were rations.
That was
Yeah,
the Depression or World War II for the ration stamps.
right.
Which one? Or both? The Depression had those stamps
Oh yeah.
because I'd read about soup lines, but they actually gave you stamps similar to what we call food
Well,
stamps
we
today.
have S&H stamps that were in books
Mm-hmm.
and that we use to buy different things. Um, it wasn't to pay for anything, but it was like a bonus that we got.
Mm-hmm.
It seems ridiculous when I think about it now, but we just used it then to get things like they do now with certain um, uh, certain bonuses, and they give you gifts. Well, like they
Mm-hmm.
have catalogs and so forth. But there was a lot to the Depression. Of course, we had ration stamps that were like for sugar, uh,
Butter.
for
Coffee,
coffee,
butter.
and butter and different foodstuffs that we need to have ration stamps for.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That you couldn't buy that item unless you had the stamp. Is that how that worked?
right, yeah. And things were so much different. I mean, everything was um, dependent on just having the stamps and having facilities to buy things. Uh, I don't know what else I can say.
Well, you went right from the Depression right into World War II.
Right.
That was a whole other world-shaking event that affected everybody in the whole
Exactly.
world.
Yeah.
And how did it affect your life?
Yeah. Well, they said that World War One was the war to end all.
Yeah.
Well, they're so full of it because there were several wars since then,
Sure.
and still are today,
Mm-hmm.
which is unbelievable in view of what happened in World War One.
Mm-hmm.
Can't imagine that there would still be wartime. I don't know, but
How did it affect your family?
well, it didn't affect us as much as a lot of other people. We were lucky to be able to get along. Uh, I guess we were very lucky. We just didn't really suffer much from uh, poverty or lack of anything. Uh, of course, we had to go according to the rules and uh, buy things with stamps,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just not as easy.
Your siblings were all sisters, so you didn't have anybody actually go to war out of your family, right?
No, we didn't. My brother was too young at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and oh no, what am I saying? He went. Sure, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking of earlier days when he was younger. No, he went. He went to the war, and
And your husband, Joe?
my later the man who became my husband went into the war too.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
so,
you guys didn't meet or get married until after the war?
that's right,
Uh-huh.
after the war,
Right.
1945,
Right after the war, huh?
right after the
But
war.
you met Dad way before then.
Yeah.
You were young when you met him. So
Right.
yeah.
And what was his service? Where did he get sent?
He was in the infantry. Is that what you asked me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where did he get sent? Did he get sent overseas?
He went sent overseas, but not until after the fighting was over.
Uh-huh.
And he was in the Army of Occupation.
Uh-huh.
And he spent his time in a town in Germany. Can't think of the name right now. But he was bivouacked in this town, Planting, Pleinting.
All
And there were two young ladies there. Both of them had a crush on him.
right.
Who told you that? Who told you? Did Dad tell you that they had a crush?
Well, I could tell that because he sent me pictures of them, and I could see that they were. And anyhow, I could understand that because Joe was a really handsome guy, and these kids really fell for him,
Uh-huh.
and he lived there, and so it was very easy for them to just fall for him. And so that's where he spent the war years. Uh, Prior to that, he was in the States, but then he was sent overseas, and he just never really saw any fighting.
Well, good for
Thank
him.
heavens.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Really.
So that was about it.
All right. All right.